Making the headlines tonight. Prime Minister Hun Sen discusses speeding up negotiations on the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, 20 years since its establishment. Leader of Britain's opposition Labour Party says Boris Johnson has broken the law and lied about the parties held in his Downing Street residence over the COVID-19 lockdowns. Djokovic risks being frozen out of his chase for a record 21st Grand Slam title, with rules surrounding unvaccinated travelers tightening and tennis tournaments reconsidering exemptions. And suspended over 65 feet in the air above Sydney Harbour, a giant iceberg slowly melts as a performer moves over it to bring attention to the growing problem of global climate change. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gochan. Prime Minister Hun Sen, the 2022 ASEAN chair, has told the ASEAN Secretary General to speed up negotiations on the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea to further advance the statement after being established for 20 years. The minister delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Hoon, told reporters after the meeting between Prime Minister Hun Sen and the ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Jock Hoi on Monday that the ASEAN Secretary General and all stakeholders have agreed to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the DOC, and on this occasion, Prime Minister Hun Sen asked the Secretary General to contribute to encouraging the negotiations around the Code of Conduct for the South China Sea to move forward. In this regard, the ASEAN Secretary General has said that he will work hard to promote this work, especially to provide the ASEAN Secretariat in Jakarta, Indonesia, as a meeting place for negotiations on the COC. In 2002, Cambodia signed the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea while chairing the ASEAN-China Summit, which set the stage for a formal code of conduct to be followed. The terms of the declaration were established by the signatory countries only, promising to resolve differences peacefully and exercise self-restraint in actions that would complicate or escalate the conflict and jeopardize peace and stability. Prime Minister Hun Sen previously proposed a three-point solution to the South China Sea issue, which includes the implementation of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea to achieve South China Sea ethics. However, he told the international community to not blame Cambodia if a solution could not be found, because no issue in the South China Sea has been resolved by any ASEAN chair so far. He has urged the international community to wait and see Cambodia's implementation efforts first. The royal government of Cambodia has designated December 29th as a win-win political day in the annual calendar, but it is not a national holiday. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more.
In the circular signed on 14 January 2022, the royal government has instructed all ministries, institutions, capitals, provinces, and private public institutions to design the 29 December Win-Win Political Day in the annual calendar from 2022 onwards and prepare to put up banners and slogans to celebrate the Win-Win Political Day with the message, "Thanks, Peace, Thank You, Win-Win Policy." To deal with the prolonged armed conflict, the Cambodian government initiated the so-called Win-Win Policy, which successfully dismantled the Khmer Rouge last stronghold without a bloodshed and has integrated the separatists into the mainstream society in late 1998. For the past 23 years, the Kingdom of Cambodia has set December 29, 1998 as the end of the civil war without bloodshed and achieving complete peace through Win-Win Policy. A major in leading Cambodia after going through the state of war, the state of the genocidal regime of Pol Pot, the state of war, and negotiation until the emergence of the present of win-win politics. Sraipor Kong, EAC News.
The former president of the Cambodia National Rescue Party, Yim Sinon, has returned to Cambodia from South Korea and has told EAC News that he was really happy to hear from his defense lawyer on Monday that the court has decided to drop the charges against him. Previously, Yim Sinon was facing charges of conspiracy and inciting serious social unrest in Cambodia and elsewhere in 2019. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has the story.
Yim Sinon has said that while he has not received the official verdict, he has received information about his acquittal from his lawyer, including the acquittal of 9 other former members of the CNRP. He has told EAC News that he is currently in Phnom Penh, but 9 of his other colleagues are still in South Korea as they continue to study and work there. He said that he and his team are very happy about this news and thanked Prime Minister Hun Sen for accepting his request to review the possibility of dropping the charges against him and his colleagues and assessing the task of facilitating further settlements to the Minister of Justice. On September 29th, Yim Sinon wrote a letter to the Prime Minister Hun Sen requesting that the charges against him and his colleagues be dropped, saying that the previous allegations were unfair because he never supported Sam Ramsey's November 9 reputation movement. The investigating judge, Deputy President of the Phnom Penh Municipal Court, Khoi Sao, issued the arrest warrant for Yim Sinon on the 6th of November 2019 on the charges of conspiracy, inciting serious social unrest in the Cambodian and elsewhere, punishable under the Articles 453, 494 and 595 of the Penal Code. In the arrest warrant, the investigating judge ordered the public forces to search for, arrest and bring Yim Sinon to the Phnom Penh Municipal Court for legal action, ordering the director of the prison to receive and detain him and bring him to the investigating judge as soon as possible. With Yim Sinon's latest statement, all such charges have been dropped against him. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Universal Peace Federation of Cambodia has told politicians and other third parties to maintain their dignity and values without exaggerating and distorting facts, using the reality of the Universal Peace Federation, particularly to ensure ancestors would not be insulted. UPF Cambodia's statement comes after Sam Rainsy posted on his Facebook page on Friday, 14th January, attacking the UPF and claiming that the founder, Sun Myung Moon, was an unusual person who pretended to be a god, was a cheater, and was imprisoned. In a press release issued on Sunday, 16th January, UPF Cambodia did not mention any names, but appeared to be responding to Sam Rainsy by calling recent allegations made against the religious organization immoral and unprofessional. The UPF was established in 2005 by Sun Myung Moon and Hak Ja Han Moon. Sun Myung Moon passed away in 2012, and the UPF is currently led by American Thomas Walsh, headquartered in Washington, D.C. The UPF has the status of a consulting body with the United Nations Economic and Social Council, and has representative offices in more than 120 countries, including Cambodia. The UPF has stated that it works with leaders around the world who are willing to work together for peace for all mankind. The Federation is not a political party, but values the role of political leaders who have played a role in the complex world of governance and international relations. Former CNRP President Sam Rainsy, who has been convicted by a Cambodian court with countless charges, is being questioned about the transparency of the CNRP TV fund, watch sales, other money laundering allegations, and accusations he has made. Kem Sokha's chief of staff, Mut Chanta, said late last year that Sam Rainsy was suspected of embezzling nearly $1 million from the Priya Atit TV fund, money for repatriation project on 9th November 2019, money for the second repatriation project on 4th May 2021, worth more than $500,000, more than $200,000 in watch sales, and hundreds of thousands of dollars in former CNRP money. More than 200 failed students in the 2021 baccalaureate have submitted a petition to the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports on Monday, 17th January, requesting the ministry to review the score and revise the worksheet after the results were announced, which were different from their expectations. EAC News reporter Saipor Kong has more.
In front of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport on Monday, more than 200 students have gathered to submit a petition to the ministry to demand a review of the disciplinary version. Most of them are candidates who fell in the exam on December 27, 2021. The students have asked the ministry to review their exam sheet scores, while others asked the ministry to reconsider the rate. One of the candidates who failed the exam, Chi Lip Heng, has told EAC News that he has participated in submitting a petition to the Ministry of Education on Monday, requesting to the ministry to review the Khmer lecture and history subject scores, because in the exam he chose the social sciences that he has hoped for these two major subjects. He has added that he is confident in his ability to pass the exam based on his hard work, whether through online or personal study. Jilip Heng has said that he got an F grade in the Khmer lecture subject, while the history subject got a C grade, which is expected to get a B grade. He has added that for yesterday's petition, there were both science and social science candidates, mostly from Phnom Penh and nearby provinces, such as him from the center. Most of them demanded that the ministry review the core subject in the exam, such as Khmer literature for social science students and mathematics for science. In particular, some candidates asked for a revision of the revision rate on their worksheet because they did not agree with the result announced by the ministry. The young man also stated that for the petition submitted to the ministry, there is firstly a handwritten application form with a signature, secondly a pass-fail results sheet with the names of the candidates in it, and thirdly, a table score that confirmed the study in 12th grade. He has asked the ministry to accept the petition and consider his problem, as well as other candidates, because all candidates have worked hard and studied hard, especially in the context of COVID-19, to get the good result of exam. A spokesman for the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport, Rosovisha, says that he cannot comment yet on this case. The result of the baccalaureate exam were announced on 14 and 15 January 2022, with a total of 72,016 candidates out of a total 187 candidates, equivalent to 65.5% compared to 2019 that have 68.62%. In 2018 and 2019, there were baccalaureate candidates who protested in front of the Ministry of Education to ask for a review of the baccalaureate result. At the same time, in 2018, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport has admitted that there was a technical error in computer by not adding the marked subject score to the candidates. The Minister of Education has apologized and recalculated all the student mark scores. In 2019, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport has announced that the Commission for the Examination and Resolution of Candidates has already examined the worksheet of students who have already filed complaints, and the results have not changed. Srepokong, EAC News.
The Fisheries Administration of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries has made an announcement requesting all fishermen to stop fishing for short mackerel during the spawning season, which will last from 15th January to 31st March 2022. The announcement from the Fisheries Administration emphasized all citizens engaged in the fishing of short mackerel in the marine fisheries of the Kingdom of Cambodia, please stop fishing activities of short mackerel from 15th January to 31st March. This restriction is being made in order to contribute to the preservation and protection of marine resources in the future. According to the report of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, in 2020, Cambodia produced 936,300 tons of fishery products, including more than 410,000 tons of freshwater products, more than 120,000 tons of marine products, and more than 400,000 tons of aquaculture products. Cambodia has reported 22 new COVID-19 cases today, Tuesday, 18th January. This includes 17 imported cases. There have been 11 patient recoveries and once again, no new deaths. The total tally of local Omicron cases is currently at 80, including 5 new cases today. Cambodia's COVID-19 case tally has now climbed to 120,847. The death toll stands at 3,015. The number of patients treated successfully since the pandemic reached Cambodia is 117,129, and the case tally for total imported cases has climbed to 20,183. Healthcare workers are currently treating a total of 670 patients. COVAX, the international COVID-19 vaccine initiative led by the World Health Organization, has delivered a total of 1 billion vaccines to 144 countries and regions in the world, WHO has announced in a press release on Sunday, 16th January.
With a 1.1 million jab delivery in Rwanda this weekend, the World Health Organization's multilateral initiative to provide equal access to vaccines for all has reached the 1 billion milestone. Along with the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, the Vaccine Alliance, Gavi, and partners, World Health Organization has led the largest vaccine procurement and supply operation in history, with deliveries to 144 countries to date. According to a press release published on Sunday, out of 194 countries members of World Health Organization, 36 have vaccinated less than 10% of their population and 88 less than 40%. COVAX ambition was compromised by hoarding, stockpiling in rich countries, catastrophic outbreaks leading to borders and supply being locked, and a lack of sharing of licenses, technology, and know-how by pharmaceutical companies meant manufacturing capacity went unused, the agency has explained. On 24 February 2021, Ghana became the first country in the world to receive vaccines through COVAX when 600,000 doses of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine were delivered to Accra. COVAX is currently working with governments, manufacturers, and partners to ensure that when countries receive vaccines, they can get them to people quickly. The work that has gone into this 1 billion milestone is only a reminder of the work that remains, the UN's health agency underscored. They added that with updated vaccines in the pipeline, citizens should demand that governments and pharmaceutical companies share health tools globally and bring an end to the death and destruction cycles of this pandemic, limit new variants, and drive a global economic recovery. COVAX is one of 3 pillars of the Access to COVID-19 Tools, or ACT, accelerator, which has launched by the World Health Organization in April 2020 in response to the pandemic. The ACT Accelerator is a groundbreaking global collaboration to accelerate the development, production, and equitable access to COVID-19 tests, treatments, and vaccines.
The leader of Britain's opposition Labour Party has said on Sunday that Prime Minister Boris Johnson had broken the law and then lied about it over parties held inside his Downing Street residence during coronavirus lockdowns. British Conservative Party Chairman Oliver Dowden has rejected calls for Johnson to resign, but said he must address the culture within his government that has resulted in multiple staff gatherings at his residence during COVID-19 lockdowns.
It's important that there is a full investigation into all of the facts, and that's why the Prime Minister set this up. But I would also say, and I completely appreciate your underlying point on all of this, this event was totally wrong. It shouldn't have happened. The Prime Minister has rightly apologised for it. People feel angry about what's been going on in Downing Street. I feel angry about what's going on in Downing Street. But the correct process now is to get to the full facts and then for the Prime Minister to appear before Parliament, which he will do, and to be held to account. But I can assure you the Prime Minister is both very contrite and deeply apologetic for what happened, but also, more importantly, is determined to make sure that this can't be allowed to happen.
Johnson has apologized for attending a gathering in the Downing Street Garden in May 2020, where staff had been invited to bring their own alcohol at a time when strict rules forbade the public from almost all forms of socializing. Amid public backlash at the perception that the government did not follow its own rules during the pandemic, an internal investigation is looking into the party and several others, including 2 separate parties on the eve of Prince Philip's funeral. The scandal has generated calls for Johnson to resign, including from within his own party, and seen the Conservatives fall far behind the opposition Labour Party in opinion polls. South Korea's Unification Ministry, which handles inter-Korean affairs, on Monday 17th January, has urged North Korea to choose peace rather than missile launches.
The spokesperson for South Korea Unification Ministry, Lee Jong-ju, says that the military detected that North Korea has launched another 2 suspected short-range ballistic missiles from Sunan airfield in Pyongyang toward the sea. The 4th test this month to demonstrate its expanding missile arsenal. He has added, We urge North Korea to choose peace-making dialogue rather than missile launch for peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula. North Korea keep firing missiles to show their missile power. South Korea has said that they need to continuously be vigilant, be prepared with defense systems. It's not the first time North Korea has launched missiles, so the people become desensitized to the danger because they fire missiles a lot. North Korea recently has fired missiles every 3 days. South Koreans believe that it is a response to the new sanction by the US against North Korea and a message to urge South Korea to suspend the annual joint military drills with the United States. The repeat series of launches drew mixed reaction from South Korea residents. Some were worried and have urged the government to be prepared, while some felt indifferent due to the frequency of missile launches. Many of the latest SRBMs, including the hypersonic missile, appear to design to the evade missile defenses. North Korea has also vowed to pursue tactical nuclear weapons, which could also lead to deploy nuclear warhead on SRBMs.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Tuesday, 18th January.
Yemeni forces backed by the United Arab Emirates have joined coalition troops fighting the Houthi movement around the central city of Marib in a renewed push to secure the prize of an energy-producing region. The battle for Marib, where the Iran-aligned Houthis had advanced on most districts barring the main city and nearby hydrocarbon sites, has dashed hopes for any imminent truce that the United Nations and the United States have struggled to engineer. UN Special Envoy for Yemen, Hans Gunberg, has told the Security Council on Wednesday that both sides are doubling down on military options and has warned of devastating implications for civilians and immediate peace prospects. The nearly 7-year-old conflict, largely seen as a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran, has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced millions, and pushed Yemen to the verge of famine as the economy collapsed. Over the past month, fighting in Al-Jawb in the north, Marib in central Yemen, and Shabwa in the south has displaced more than 15,000 people, according to the United Nations. The conflict is a multifaceted one with several Yemeni factions vying for power. The UAE largely ended its military presence on the ground in 2019 amid a military stalemate, but continues to hold sway via Yemeni forces it armed and trained. The Houthis, who say they are fighting a corrupt system and foreign aggression, largely control the north, while the government is based in the south, where protests have erupted last year over the deteriorating economic situation.
An underwater volcano near Tonga has erupted for the third time in 4 days, potentially threatening the ability of surveillance's flight to assets that damages the Pacific Islands nation following Saturday's massive eruption and tsunami. Australia's meteorological services have said that a large eruption took place at Tonga Bay volcano on Monday, but no tsunami warnings have been issued. Saturday's eruption was likely the biggest recorded anywhere in the planet in more than 30 years, according to experts. Dramatic images from space have captured the eruption in real time as a huge plume of ash, gases and steam was spilled up to 20 kilometres into the atmosphere. And tsunami waves were sent crashing across the Pacific. A footage shows people fleeing as waves inundated Tonga's capital, Nuku'alofa, and the afternoon sky has turned pitch black due to the heavy ash cloud. Tsunami waves were also recorded thousands of miles away along the United States west coast, in Peru, New Zealand and Japan. In Peru, at least 2 people died after being swept by high waves. No mass casualties have been reported, but aid organisations are concerned about contaminated air and access to clean water for people in Tonga's outlying islands. With communications down, Australia and New Zealand have sent flights to survey the damage.
An ambulance driver in Greece has been arrested after using his ambulance to conduct drug deals and transport bags full of drugs from the Greek border to the country's capital. The 41-year-old driver, who worked for a medical clinic in Athens, was arrested in the northwestern town of Igoumenitsa on Sunday. According to police, he was using the ambulance in his spare time without the knowledge of the private clinic to transfer large amounts of cannabis from the Greek-Albanian border to Athens in order to avoid detection. The curiosity of police in Igoumenitsa was sparked when they saw the ambulance driving through the town and then returning again an hour later. The Greek-Albanian border is some 20 kilometers from the town. A local police chief, Ioannis Papas, has said it was odd for an ambulance from a private Athens clinic to be driving around the town on a Saturday morning. And since ambulances have been used in the past to transport illegal migrants across the border, police decided to stop the vehicle for a check. When they opened the back of the ambulance, they found 13 duffel bags filled with 129 packages of raw cannabis, weighing more than 319 kilograms. When the driver was questioned about the contents of the bag, in an effort to avoid being caught, he insisted to police not to touch or open the bags as they contained hazardous biological material. He also had 900 euros and 3 mobile phones in his possession, as well as a small amount of cocaine. He was arrested for the possession, transport, and trafficking of drugs. The cannabis was transferred to a warehouse where it will be destroyed. After the break, a look at all the latest sports news.
EAC News' audience is growing. Our YouTube channel has over 150,000 verified subscribers. To mark the milestone, we've received the Silver Creator Award from YouTube. It's given to channels with over 100,000 subscribers. YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki says the award celebrates EAC News' hard work and incredible achievement. She says we brought a unique voice and style to the world, but have also created valuable connections and built a community along the way. The next milestone we're going for is 1 million subscribers, and we'd really like that Gold Creator Award. So if you're not already a subscriber, head to YouTube and search for EAC News. Subscribers get alerts when the daily Roundup is premiering and live events are streaming. Get all the latest breaking news and updates from Cambodia in English. The EAC News channel on YouTube. Cambodia made clear. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Novak Djokovic risks being frozen out of tennis as he chases a record 21st Grand Slam title, with rules on travelers who are unvaccinated against COVID-19 tightening in the third year of the pandemic, and some tournaments reconsidering exemptions.
The Serbian, currently ranked as world number 1 by the Association of Tennis Professionals, but who has not been vaccinated against COVID-19, was deported from Australia on Sunday, ahead of the Australian Open after losing a court case to have the cancellation of his visa overturned. Under Australian law, Djokovic cannot get another visa for 3 years, denying him the chance to add to his 9 titles at Melbourne Park. But the government has left the door open for a possible return next year. The world number 1, however, faces more immediate hurdles in his bid to overtake Swiss Roger Federer and Spaniard Rafa Nadal, with whom he is tied on 20 major titles, as he could be barred from the French Open as things stand. The French Sports Ministry has said on Monday there would be no exemption from a new vaccine passed law approved on Sunday, which requires people to have vaccination certificates to enter public places such as restaurants, cafes, and cinemas. The ministry's stance was welcomed by Germany's world number 3, Alexander Zverev. The next tournament on Djokovic's calendar is likely to be the Dubai Duty-Free Tennis Championships from February 21 to 26. A spokesperson has said that all players would need to provide negative PCR tests before being allowed into the United Arab Emirates. Players will then need to adhere to the testing protocols and processes stipulated by the ATP and the WTA. Organizers of the Monte Carlo Masters, which Djokovic has won twice, are awaiting French government guidelines for the next edition in April, while Wimbledon organizers AELTC are also yet to finalize safety arrangement for the major. However, England's Lawn Tennis Association has set entry requirements for its events, some of which serve as Wimbledon warm-ups, would be determined by the government. Currently, unvaccinated people can enter England but must isolate for 10 days. A U.S. Open representative has said last week that the year's final major would follow New York City's Department of Health guidelines. Djokovic could have trouble even getting into the United States because foreign air travelers have had to be fully vaccinated since November and provide proof before boarding flights with limited exceptions. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has said there are no exceptions for vaccine requirements for religious reasons or other moral convictions. That rule could also impact Djokovic's participation in U.S. hardcourt tournaments at Indian Wells and Miami in March. The Serbian, who is among 3 ATP players in the top 100 yet to be vaccinated, could also face issues ahead of the Italian Open in Rome in May due to tough anti-COVID restrictions in Italy.
As Beijing prepares to host the 2022 Winter Olympics, Mexico is looking forward to an event that may inspire future generations of athletes. The country has never won a medal at the Winter Games, and for the Mexican Olympic Committee Vice President Daniel Aceves, it would be a source of pride and prestige.
According to the Mexican Olympic Committee Vice President Daniel Aceves, Mexico needs representatives on the international stage in all areas, and sporting prowess influences how a country is perceived. So, a medal would show discipline and commitment from a country without the climate for more common practice of winter sports. As a country not typically associated with winter sports, Mexico will nevertheless send 4 athletes to Beijing 2022. The delegation is made up of 1 cross-country skier, 2 alpine skiers, and the best figure skater the country has produced in a generation. 22-year-old Donovan Carrillo is the figure skater who will represent his country at the Winter Olympics in 30 years and will carry the flag for Mexico at the opening ceremony. Carrillo says, "Being the first Mexican to qualify for the Beijing Olympics makes me very proud. These Olympics Games in Beijing 2022 have been a beacon of hope. It relieves a lot of the uncertainty we have lived through during the pandemic." Mexico has observed the efforts of China's Olympic organization as part of society's response to the pandemic. The country knows that the Games will be seen around the world and send a message of resilience and unity.
Bayern Munich's Alfonso Davies will miss 3 CONCACAF World Cup qualifiers due to signs of heart muscle inflammation after he contracted COVID-19, Canada Soccer has announced on January 14th.
The news is a blow for Canada's side that lead the final round of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying with 6 matches left and 4 teams in contention for 3 direct berths. Earlier on Friday, the speedy 21-year-old left back who tested positive for COVID-19 this month was ruled out for some time by Bayern coach Julian Nagelsmann after signs of mild myocarditis were detected. Davies will miss games against Honduras on January 27, the United States on January 30, and El Salvador on February 2. Canada are unbeaten in CONCACAF's final round of qualifiers and lead the standings after 8 games with 16 points ahead of the United States, who has 15 points. Mexico and Panama both have 14 points each.
Now for a look at how the weather will be playing out tomorrow. Finally, suspended over 65 feet above Sydney Harbour, a 2,721-kilogram iceberg slowly melted on Saturday as a performer suspended by a harness danced across it as part of the 2022 Sydney Festival. A frozen world floats high over Sydney Harbour. The performance is called Thaw and was created by Australian physical theatre company Legs on the Wall. It was created to bring attention to climate change and the ongoing climate emergency the world is facing. A colossal block of ice suspended over Sydney Harbour. Isolated on this frozen world, the performer scrambles to protect the iceberg from the elements and the industrial crane that seems to toy with them both. How long will the iceberg last? How long before the system collapses? Her future hangs in the balance, just like ours. An embrace of epic scale and within the context of an iconic location, Thaw will stop you in your tracks. As the performer moves across the iceberg over 8 hours, the ice slowly thaws in the Sydney weather as crowds watch from down below by the Sydney Opera House. Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Telegram or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.